Is this thing on? What's going on? Where am I? Well, I guess I should say happy Friday. This is my first Friday episode. So thank you for watching this, whoever's watching it now and in the future. And it may look a little different. That's because I'm at my friend's place and they live in Houston, big city, one of the biggest cities in the world. And yeah, somebody tell me what the audio is like because I have no idea. It might be bad. But it's really cool here. So I drove out here to hang out with my friends. But on the way here, I stopped and I got some video games. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about them. There's a lot of them, and maybe like a dozen. And then we're gonna talk about a paper. I actually just found this paper randomly. I found it a few days ago. What I did is I went to Google Scholar, which I've talked about. If you want to get up-to-date research on any topic, just go to Google Scholar and type in what you're interested in. It's like the academic version of a regular Google search. So what I did in this case is I typed in Jacques Vallée's name because he's a scientist and he publishes. And so I wanted to see what he had published. Hey, what's up, John P. Adventures? Good vibes, good vibes, good vibes. Thank you. How do I sound? Do I sound okay? Hey, Melinda, thank you for being here. So what I was saying is that I'll be talking about an article that I found today. And I found this article recently. And what I did is I went to Google Scholar. Google Scholar is like regular Google search, but for scientists, for academic research. And so all I did was I typed in this person, Jacques Vallée, Dr. Jacques Vallée. We did an episode about him, on Tuesday, because I wanted to see what he had published. And this paper came up, and it's basically the analysis scientifically in the laboratory of UFO material, a part of a UFO. And that's what I want to talk about. Also, I did some digging around because at first you had to pay $34, I think, to read this paper. That's a lot of money. But I dug around a little bit, and then I found it for free. So you get to, and I have the link in the description. So there's pictures in it of the UFO materials. You can look at it if you want. And it's free. And John, you're welcome for the wrench. No problem. But yeah, that being said, let's look at some games, some random ones. I got a lot of them. So I got Mortal Kombat Deception for PlayStation 2. Mortal Kombat, what can I say about Mortal Kombat? It's been around since the 90s, like early 90s. I think they're at 11 right now. So there's been 11 of these or something. So then I got Shrek, the game, Forever After. So this is like the last movie they made. I haven't seen this movie, but this is the Shrek game. There he is right there. And, who doesn't like Shrek? It's like a big meme, right? Hold on. Yeah, there you go. Anyway. This one. Okay, so this is a wrestling game. Okay, so this is SmackDown versus Raw 2009. And I don't know who that is. Is that John Cena? Movie star John Cena? I think so. What do you guys think? Anyway, I don't really play. I'm not really a wrestling fan, but there's a huge market. Like, people love wrestling games, especially the WWE games. Worldwide Entertainment. What does WWE stand for? I don't even know. Dark Hour. Hey, what's up, Dark Hour? Thanks for being here. Street Fighters. John P. says Street Fighter is another series of fighting games that it grew up like right alongside Mortal Kombat. So there's Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. Street Fighter was very fast and fluid of a fighting game, but it was all like very cartoony, like animated. Whereas Mortal Kombat started off as photorealistic. So they took scans of real actors, like video scans, and they made those into fighters. They stopped doing that. Now they just have really detailed 3D models like everybody else does. But that's what they did. All right. This one. Oh, look at this one. I never heard of this one. I actually got lucky with this one. So this game is an Atlas, which is a Japanese company. Whoa. Atlas is a Japanese company, and it's called Sugai Atonement. Okay. I don't know what that means in Japanese, but this is actually like, I think, a role-playing game. It's actually incredibly rare, and I got it for $1. So I can't wait to play that one. I don't even know what it's about. I just got it today. I need to like Google what that means in Japanese. Okay. Speaking of Japanese games, I got a copy of Resident Evil 4 for PlayStation 2. And I've said this before on this show, but this is considered to be one of the best video games ever made by humans. And it's got the manual. This guy right here is Leon Kennedy. All right. He's a police officer. He works in Raccoon City. Raccoon City is a fictional United States city with a police department and a guy named Leon Kennedy. And there's a company, a biological company called Umbrella Corporation. And Umbrella Corporation, basically, they're in the business of zombies. I don't really remember exactly how, but they make money off of zombies somehow. And so all the Resident Evil games, people have to clean up for this company, basically. It's this company with terrible management, and zombies are always getting out. So then the police department, they have to go clean it up. You can imagine how crazy that is. Okay, this is cool. This is like a triple pack. It literally says triple pack. So it's got Limbo and 2 other games, Trials and Explosion Man. This one I've never even heard of, but I just looked online, and it's a very kind of rarish game. It's called, it's got a huge sticker on it. Okay, here we go. It's called Rise of the North Star, Lost Paradise. It's got this guy on there. And so apparently what you're supposed to do is take on the wasteland with nothing but your fist. And what's going on back here? There's a man with his fist, and there's 2 men with their fist. They're fisting at each other. And then I think that's a woman. There's some women and some cars. Well, that looks like an adventure. This is another like biological type game. It's called Biomutant. Very interesting. Okay, so this game is supposed to be a lot of fun. You could make your different weapons, but the story is what's most interesting. So I think this takes place in a like post-apocalyptic Earth. So there's no more humans. There was some kind of disaster, maybe with pollution or atomic weapons, and then new forms of life evolved, like this guy. So this guy is like a after humanity type of mammal. So it takes place in that world, and there's lots of different monsters and creatures. So, and I guess something else is this one also just got it's about to get an update to make it look and play a lot better. When I say look better, what I mean is the image looks more clear. Basically, there's more detail in the image. And when I say it plays better, I mean that, you know, when you're playing a video game, it's usually a video that you're watching. It's some kind of video. And so what a video is a series of images, one after the other. So usually, like if you watch a movie, like a Hollywood movie, you see these images 24 times each second. So every second, you've been shown 24 different pictures. So when you're playing a video game, you really want to be able to control precisely where your character is moving. So it helps to have a smoother image. So the games nowadays are pushing like 120 frames per second. So every second you're watching 120 different photographs instead of 24, which is what you see in a movie. So that allows it to look really, really, really nice. What I noticed is it kind of looks like 3D without 3D glasses, because there's so much detail and movement on the image that it looks like it's 3D. It's good. The game that does it the best is Mad Max for Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Those games at 120 frames per second, they look like a little diorama that you could reach into. That's crazy. Cool. Then we got Dante's Inferno. Speaking of frame rates, this game is supposed to run at 60 frames per second, which is pretty high. It's for the PlayStation 3. It's a third-person action bloody game, and it's based on this book, Dante's Inferno. I think it's based on a book, a form of literature, and that book is based on the Bible. So it's supposed to have a lot of religious themes. I think the character goes to hell, and there's different levels of hell. Use another wrestling game. If there's any wrestling fans, this is WWE 2013. And it's got, I know this guy, it's got Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's been in a movie or something. I don't know. Once again, people love their wrestling games. I appreciate wrestling, but I've never watched any wrestling. I told you there's a lot of games today, man. There's a lot. Okay. I picked these all up today on the way to my friend's house. So this is Sonic All-Star Racing for the Wii. The Wii, wow, what a legendary console. I love that console. But that's just a really good racing game. And then the last game is this, which is Mario and Sonic at the Olympics Winter Game. Sochi 2014. So, man, if you would have showed me this picture when I was 10 years old, right here, this stuff, it would have blown my mind. I wouldn't have believed you. I would have slapped you. Because you got Sonic, who represents Team Sega, and then you have Mario, who represents Team Nintendo. And they're skiing together? Are you kidding? Like, they used to hate each other. They used to be like corporate enemies. They used to always try to like insult each other through commercials. And anyway, but now they're friends. And yeah, so you get to play Sonic or Mario or some other characters, and you get to go to the Olympics and like pretend you're in the Olympics. That's all the games. It's a lot of games. Okay, so IoWalks is here. Thank you for being here, IoWalks. Thank you for being at every episode. You don't have to be at every episode, but damn, it's awesome that you are. That's really cool. IoWalks, he's our resident poet, and he's also a musician. You know, I might have you write some music for me. That'd be really cool, IoWalks. Okay, so IoWalks says, a cook in the kitchen, I hook in a fish. Hello, if you look at this. Whoa, that's fucking awesome, dude. I love that one, dude. Okay. A hook in the kitchen, I hook in a fish. Hello, if you look at this. Oh, yeah, I got it. I'm not doing it justice. I'm going to read it again. All right. I'm going to do it for real this time. Okay. A cook in the kitchen, I hook in a fish. Hello, if you look at this. Damn. That's fucking crazy, dude. You're giving us some of your A stuff. You don't have to do that. Mario Party is the best. Yeah, Mario Party is really fun. I played that in college. I was in graduate school, and I played it with some other graduate students. We had a good time. We were laughing. Good vibes from John P. Adventures. Thank you, John. Melinda says, Dante's Inferno is part of a 14th century poem called The Divine Comedy. This is Melinda, by the way. Melinda is very smart. You often hear about the circles of hell from the poem. There are 9 circles in total. Yeah, so I think that's what's happening in this video game. Hold on. Thank you for that, Melinda. Yeah. So I think in this video game, look at this guy, okay? He's got like a weird mask, and he's got like an axe. Here's a better picture, okay? So this gentleman right here, he's got a T. Does that T represent something? Is that like he's got like a religious costume on, like a Catholic costume, Melinda? Does that look anyway? In that video game, you play a gentleman that goes through the circles of hell, 9 circles of hell. So Melinda's telling us that, yeah, Dante's Inferno is part of a 14th century poem called The Divine Comedy. And you often hear about the circles of hell from the poem. There's 9 circles in total. That's pretty cool. Circles, hell circles. Okay. IoWalks says a hook. That's a really good hook, brother. Like a musical genius. I really respect artistic people. Scotty B is talking about a great guy who's in the chat room. So Scotty B is talking about Dark Hour Paranormal. Okay. If you go to social media or go to YouTube and type out in Dark Hour Paranormal, you're going to get an awesome channel run by a great guy. And yeah, just give him a subscription. He's really cool. Does a lot of good content and documentaries. He's in the chat room too. You could ask him a question. I'm sure he'll answer. Okay. Love you, Michael. Michael's so cool. So Melinda says, very cool with ayahuasca. Yeah. Templars. Oh, okay, that's a Templar shirt. Yeah, so in Dante's Inferno, you play a Templar who goes through the 9 circles of hell, and that's based on a poem from the 14th century called Divine Comedy. So I think that's pretty interesting for a video game. It's very interesting because I had a copy before, but I sold it in my store. But I played it a little bit. Like I said, it has 60 frames a second, so it's a very smooth gameplay. It's very detailed, and it is incredibly bloody and gory. But I mean, if you saw that movie, Passion of the Christ, that was really bloody and gory. So I guess that's the way it goes down in the Bible. I don't know. Yeah, Templar. Okay, guys. Well, like I said, subscribe to Dark Hour Paranormal. Thank you for being here, brother. And let's look at this paper. Yeah, so look, if you need more, if you don't believe me, believe John P. Adventures. Dark Hour Paranormal is great. Please check him out. Smiley face. I agree. Okay. So yeah, let me set up this paper a little bit. I'll say again real fast. This is what happened. Last episode, I talked about a research paper written in the 90s, actually 1990, by Dr. Jacques Vallée. And he's just a world famous ufologist, and he knows hard science, and he's written so many books, and he's still around. He was on Joe Rogan. His name is Jacques Vallée. He's French. And what I was curious I was like, okay, he's a scientist. Has he done anything recently? So I went to Google Scholar. So you could go to Google Scholar, just Google Scholar, and type in any topic you want to normally, and you'll get all the latest research on that topic. And that's what we do here. So, I kind of show you how to read those papers. But I mean, if you want to do real research, that's all you need is Google Scholar. But anyway, so I use Google Scholar. So I just put in his name because I want to see if he's written anything. He's the author. And this paper came up, and it was written this year. It was published this year. It's right off the presses. And it's about the physical analysis of a UFO. And it's got a story about the UFOs in there and conclusions. And it's a lot of crazy chemistry, physics type stuff. But if you want to read that paper, you could look at the description of this video, and you'll see a PDF. It'll take you right to it. And it usually costs $34. If you're not affiliated with a university or like a research organization, they pay to have access to those journals. But if you don't have that, it would cost you like $34 to read that paper. That's a whole other issue. By the way, the people that write the paper don't get paid that money. Like, I've written a paper, and I think you could buy it, but I don't get any money from it anyway. I did a little bit more digging, and I found a free copy, so that's cool. So you guys can download it too. But let me pull it up, and let's just get started. Let's see. So this button, share screen. This button here. Okay. So, okay, that looks good. And thanks for being over here. Thank you, Bobby Dizzle, for being here. Thank you, John P. Adventures. Scotty B, good to have you here. iWalks, thank you for your hooks. You're sharing us your dope hooks. Melinda, thank you for being here. Thank you, Dark Hour Paranormal, for being here. And Mr. Catfish, thank you. Welcome to the show. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. All right. Whoops. Okay. We have something. John P. Adventures says, have you talked with Damien? Send him a hug. I've talked like through an intermediate of Damien, like his wife. And I want to talk to him directly, see how he's doing. But I will send him a hug as well. I will send him a hug. Oh, nice. So John P. Adventure says he did an essay project in one of his courses, and he got published. Osteopathy stuff. Osteopathy. Okay, so this is a scientific term. If you learn Latin, it's not hard to do. Just learn a few words in Latin. You could. A lot of times you could translate scientific terms, because osteopathy is a scientific term. It comes from Latin. So osteo, I believe, means bone. So I know that already. So even though I don't recognize the word, I know it's about bones. But just to make sure, let's double check and see. what it is. I mean, he's going to tell us, but I want to know. The John P. Adventures published research on this subject that we're looking at right now. So I typed it in wrong. Osteopathy. See, I have to type like a meemaw or a peepaw, like very slowly. Otherwise, I just can't do it right. Okay, so here's what osteopathy is. This is coming from the Better Health channel, if you want to go there. Here's a link right here. Okay, so an osteopath focuses on your whole body, including the soft tissues. Hold on. As I was saying, I wasn't working like a peepaw. I'm sorry. Okay, osteopathy focuses on your whole body, including the soft tissues, such as the muscles, ligaments, and tendons, the spine, and the nervous system, and may use a variety of different hands-on methods, including spinal manipulations, soft tissue massage techniques, articulation, gentle rhythmic joint movement. That sounds awesome. I think I need to talk to an osteopath. Yeah, to focus on my whole body, including my soft tissues. I like the part about soft tissue massage. That sounds good. Well, congratulations, John P. Adventures. That's very cool. And then Melinda says, whoop. If you look up my husband on Google Scholar, you'll see some of my husband's papers. Andrew Povelevu. All right. Well, very cool. We'll do that. I don't want to derail us too much, but I definitely want to look at what Andrew talks about. So yeah, basically, if you go to Google Scholar, if you'd like to type in Melinda's husband's name, which is just Andrew I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your name. Pavlev. You'll see what Andrew's published. Very cool. John P. says disease. It was born in the U.S. Dr. Andrew Taylor Still. Okay. Oh, interesting. Melinda says, my husband is a theoretical physicist. Physicist. He works for Merck Pharma. He's in charge of running mathematical models for HPV vaccines for countries around the world. Okay. Well, look, let me just tell you what that means, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew, Melinda's husband, Mr. Pavlev, is a very intelligent man, and he's working in some high-level mathematical and biological realms. And it sounds like he's doing good for the world as well. So that's very impressive research. Osteopath is like a chiropractor, but from the Western part of the world. Interesting. No worries. No one can say our last name. Okay, good. Makes you feel better. Okay. So let's get to the paper. Here it is. Check everything. Yeah. Here it is. Here's a research paper. So first, let's look at the journal it's published in. So yeah, I mean, I like to look at the journals it's published in because the very first thing, if you're looking at a research paper, if you just look at the journal name or you read about the journal, then you'll find out what the paper is generally about. What part of the scientific world is it about? So the journal is called A Progress in Aerospace Sciences. So, I mean, that tells me that this is a journal that just has to do with aerospace science or space. Let's see. What is, I mean, I know it has to do with space, but aerospace. Okay, so aerospace. All right, so this journal is about aerospace. What is aerospace? Well, looks like, according to Wikipedia, it is a term used to collectively refer to the atmosphere and outer space. Okay, that's interesting. Aerospace activity is very diverse with a multitude of commercial, industrial, and military applications. Aerospace engineering consists of aeronautics and astronautics. Okay. So this journal is about the atmosphere and outer space. And it has to do with the UFO. And, UFOs do fly, so they are in the atmosphere. And I guess some of them are in space too. All right, so then the title of the paper is Improved Instrumental Techniques, including isotopic analysis, applicable to the characterization of unusual materials with potential relevance to aerospace forensics. That's a very dense title. I mean, there's a lot of information here, so let's just break down some of it. So this first statement, improved instrumental techniques, I think that's going to tell us that the main focus of this paper is that what they discovered, the end product of this research paper, is that they improved the techniques of using instruments. So I think they're talking about isotopic analysis. So there are instruments or devices, machines basically, that help you with isotopic analysis. And these machines have now been improved, their techniques. So think of it like a fishing lure, or like a fishing a fishing rod and lure. That's when you're casting, that's a technique. It takes, to use that machine, which is a fishing rod, it takes a technique. And people can learn better ways of casting their fishing rod. And just the same way, there's a machine out there that instead of casting a fishing rod, it analyzes isotopes in matter. So matter is what physical things are made of. I guess the way I like to describe matter is basically, if you look at the periodic table of elements, though each one of those represents a type of matter, basically. And so some common types of matter are oxygen, gold, platinum, titanium, uranium, tungsten. I love tungsten, probably my favorite type of atom. Hydrogen, gold. I think I said gold already. There's a lot of elements out there. But this machine basically lets you study this stuff. And the UFO material they have in this paper is physical. So somebody got this UFO material and they found it and you could hold it in their hand. There's pictures of it. And so it's made of matter. It's made of, we would think these things that are in the periodic table. So we want to analyze them better. We want to look at them at the very small scale to see what different types of atoms are there. Of all those things on the periodic table, what type of things are in this UFO? What is it made of? What is the matter made of? And then also each of those little elements, like let's say it's got a little bit of gold in it, for instance. Well, what is the subatomic properties of that gold? Because there are different types of gold, and that's what isotopes are. So there's little particles that make up matter. Matter is what's on the periodic table, like oxygen and carbon and gold. But there's different types of each of those elements, and it's based on their subatomic particles. So matter is made of atoms, just like your body is made of, people are made of bodies, but you could go smaller, you could go to cells. So you're made of trillions of individual things called living cells. So that's like a subhuman unit of measurement. So just with matter, there's subatomic particles, which is basically what is matter made of? It's made of little things called subatomic particles. It's kind of like how we're made of cells. Anyway, so he's saying that these techniques have been improved and they're applicable to the characterization of unusual material. Okay, so these techniques that he's discovered are really good at identifying. That's what characterization means. They're really good at showing us what unusual materials are made of. So unusual materials in this case, it means a UFO. So somebody saw a UFO fall to the sky, and it's very unusual. We don't know why it fell from the sky. It's an unusual material. And so we want to be able to use these machines, which are called isotope analyzers, basically, and to find out what's in them with potential relevance to aerospace forensics. Okay, so this last part is very deep. Okay, so not only have we developed, in this paper that we're going to read, not only has there been a new method discovered of how we could better understand matter which is what's in the periodic table. Not only have we have better instruments and better techniques for the instruments, those techniques can help us with unusual material, but it's also very important for aerospace forensics. I believe what this is referring to is forensics. Look, I think forensics means like analyzing things in detail. Let's see. Forensics. Like I know what these things are, but I don't know, what the dictionary would call them. Okay, so forensics is technically, according to Wikipedia, let's see how close I am. Okay. It's also known as criminalistics. I'm not typing like a peepaw or like a grandpa. I mean, I'm not typing like a grandpa or grandma. But what I mean is very slowly. And there's nothing wrong with that. People should type slowly. Okay, forensic science, also known as criminalistics, is the application of science to criminal and civil laws, mainly on the criminal side during criminal investigation. Interesting. Well, what does this say? Interesting. Okay, well, it's saying that it's science for crimes, but now let's see what aerospace forensics is. Let's see if it's the same thing. So we saw what forensics means, but let's see what aerospace forensics. Okay, so now I'm looking at this website called, it looks like it's a university or this website called Daytona Beach. So it says that, yeah, that's what I thought it meant. It says, okay, the Aerospace Forensics Lab, operated by the Applied Aviation Science Department, allows viewing and tactile inspection of wreckage while practicing the science of aircraft accident investigation. Okay, so I think, yeah, it means that if there's been an accident, then you want to be able to investigate. So what I'm thinking is, when there's an accident in space or, even an airplane, there's debris. There's like, parts of the plane that have caught on fire or exploded. And a lot of times, if you want to understand what happened with that wreckage, with that accident, you want to prevent it from happening, or you just want to understand why it happened to begin with. You want to get that physical matter that is the wreckage, and you want to be able to analyze it. And that'll help you piece together the story like a detective would. And so what's very interesting about this title of this paper is that, this paper is really what it's doing is like Jacques Vallée and Garry P. Nolan, they're saying, hey, we got what we think is, we're pretty sure this is material from a UFO crash. And we want to find out what's going on here, okay? But if you notice, that's not what the title of the paper is. It doesn't say that. So a lot of times when you want to publish a research paper and it's in a fringe subject, it's about cryptozoology or ghosts or something, this is what you do. You find a way that you could say, what we did is actually going to help us with something that's really practical, like aerospace forensics. And you're not lying. That's the crazy thing. They're not lying. It's true. What they discovered when they're looking at this UFO stuff, and they want to know, what is it? They're like, what's a UFO? Does it come from another planet? They're thirsty for answers. That's really what they're doing. But when they publish their paper, they have to word it in a way where it's like, we just found a better way, a better technique of studying the wreckage of aircraft. Isn't that cool? Let me tell you about it. And then you talk about all the weird stuff. Anyway, so we've just gotten through the title, but it is a very heavy title. And the authors. So when you look at a paper, the authors are listed, and the first author is always the biggest contributor. So this guy probably did 80% of the work. The second person, maybe did 20, 15%, and it goes lower and lower. And then the very last person, sometimes if there's like 10 people, the very last author maybe did the least. Maybe they wrote a grant, and that grant got money for us to do this project. But anyway, the first author is Garry P. Nolan. If you look down here, it tells you he's from the Department of Pathology at Stanford. And then Jacques Vallée, our ufologist, he's working for Documentica Research LLC, San Francisco, USA. I wonder if that's his own company. He might own that company. LLC is a type of, I believe that's a corporation. Okay, then another author is Saizun Yang. Saizun Jiang is actually under an A. So he's from Stanford. Okay, so what's going on is that Garry P. Nolan is probably working with Saizun Yang, but Saizun Yang is probably maybe works in the lab or as a student. And then we have Larry G. Lemecki, and he's C, and he is from NASA, American, I think, AMES Research Center, retired from the United States. So this guy is a retired NASA employee or researcher. Very cool. All right. Well, before we start on the abstract, let me just look at the comments and see what everybody's thinking. Okay. Okay. Everything is cool. All right. So let's go back. Okay. So the abstract. When you read the abstract, this is basically the summary of the entire paper. So if you want to start doing your own research about whatever topic, I mean, literally whatever topic, you can use science to answer any question. So let's say you want to find out how to grow better tomatoes, or you want to learn how to make the most money. You want to learn how to make money. You want to get someone out of prison. These are all questions that you start researching and use science to solve. So you just go to Google Scholar, you type in, how, reduce prison sentence if you want to get someone out of jail. Better tomatoes, bigger tomatoes, type that into Google Scholar. Or you type in, I don't know, for the money thing, I'd probably type in, wealth growth probably, the growth of wealth. And somebody will probably publish some paper teaching you how to make a lot of money. I don't know. But in this case, this paper is about the UFO record. So anyway, all those papers you end up getting, if you're doing Google Scholar research, are all going to have an abstract. And this is just a summary of the whole paper. So it's really useful, actually. So you could read a lot of abstracts in a day. So this abstract should give us an idea of what's going on with this paper. It says, the problem of precise characterization, analysis, and eventual identification of unknown materials arises in many fields and takes many forms, depending on the nature of the substances under study. In the first part of this paper, we review common modern mass spectrometry techniques applied to such studies. Okay, so what he says already, he's saying basically that he's talking about unknown materials, and he says that there's a problem with our precise characterization, analysis, and identification of unknown materials. So yeah, he's saying that there's a lot of stuff out there. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it's made of. We want to know what it's made of. In a lot of different fields in the world, they want to know what stuff is made of. Then he says, in the first part of this paper, we review common modern mass spectrometry techniques applied to such studies. So he's talking about this technique called mass spectrometry. Mass spectrometry is a method, it's a machine, and it helps us find out what stuff is made of. We'll look at that at the end of the abstract. We also give an overview of improvements made to these techniques in recent years by Silicon Valley companies and other teams focused on precise biomedical research dependent upon sensitive techniques, yet applicable to a wide range of non-biological materials. Okay, well, the second sentence, he's basically saying that very recently, there have been Silicon Valley companies. Silicon Valley is an area in California, and these companies in this area, there's teams there, and they've made improvements to technologies like mass spectrometry. He says that they did it because of biomedical research, but he's saying that what they've discovered is also good for identifying non-biological material. Biological material means things that are alive, like a cell, like DNA, like tissue, hair. In the recent and third parts of the paper, we review practical experiences applying these techniques to the simplest case of the characterization of solid materials, as opposed to liquids or gases. Let me just explain that part. So he's saying in the first part, he's going to give a review of what kind of methods are used to identify matter. He's saying in the second and third part of the paper, they're going to talk about or review or discuss some practical experiments they've already done using those techniques. And they're going to do it in a very simple case, which involves looking at solid material. So solid is a state of matter. Some other states of matter are liquid or a gas. So this is like ice. Ice can be melting, so it could be a liquid. It could have vapor coming off of it, so that could be a gas. And the ice itself at the core, that is a solid. So he's saying that it's really easiest to identify solids. I didn't know that. So they're going to talk about some experiments they did on solid matter, which means UFO crash material. And he's saying that's easy. And then after they review those experiments, they're going to compare their results to previously undertaken isotopic analysis. Okay, so they're going to get some results and they're going to compare them to other results that were done previously. In particular, we describe our correlations of that analysis with the patterns described by witnesses in a well-documented, still unexplained incident, initially thought to be of aerospace origin, which gave rise to the deposition of unknown material and by the investigators who handled it in the field and the laboratory. So in this sentence, he basically describes the UFO event. So he's saying, in particular, we describe our correlations of that analysis. So he's saying that they're going to compare some analysis, some patterns of analysis with this UFO crash. So this is where he talks about the UFO crash. He says, described by witnesses in a well-documented, still unexplained incident. So this UFO, I've read ahead already, so I know there's at least 3 witnesses that saw the UFO in the sky, and I believe they might have seen it fall. So it's well-documented, and it's still unexplained. So 3 people saw this UFO fall, and as of this date, we still don't know what it is that fell. And it says initially it was thought to be of aerospace origin, so people thought that it came from atmospheric space. And then they thought that that gave rise to the deposition of an unknown material. Well, that means that this UFO crashed and it left a deposition or a large quantity or a quantity of unknown material. And by the investigators who handled it in the field and laboratory. The lessons from this specific investigation are applicable to a wider range of issues in reverse engineering of complex esoteric materials in aerospace forensics. This last sentence is crazy too. I think what he's implying is that what they discovered in this paper can also be applied to reverse engineering UFO technology. So what he says is he does say that reverse engineering, but then he says complex esoteric material. So complex means very complicated, like something we don't understand. It's so complicated we don't understand. And esoteric, I think it means of unknown origin. I think we looked that word up earlier. So esoteric. I think esoteric is a way to describe UFO wreckage. And it means, yeah, that's what I thought it meant. So esoteric means intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge or interest. So it's understood by very little people. So yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, that's the abstract. So that gives us a good idea. Let me just check on the comments real fast and check on our time. Okay, everything looks good. I think I'll probably go for another 15 minutes. Feel free to ask any questions, but this will be a 2-parter. I think because we've only gotten through the the abstract, so it'll be a 2-parter. The other thing is that I think in about 2 weeks I'm going to start a new video series or show, and so what it's going to be probably on Tuesdays, and it's going to last. I'm not sure yet. It might last several weeks, 2 to 3 weeks at least, maybe 10 weeks. But so for the next 10 weeks. Starting in 2 weeks, I'm going to start a show called Entomology 101. And so what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to teach the class of entomology as if I was in a college. I used to teach at a college. So I basically do a free online course for the subject of entomology. And I'm probably also going to apply, have some tests that are available for download. So you could, I'll tell you when after a lesson, you could take the test and grade it yourself and you can see how well you're doing in my class. But entomology is the study of insects. And so I'm going to, teach a course on insects, basically. So if you've ever been interested in insects, then I'll start that probably in 2 weeks. I'll try to find a textbook that's really cheap or free so that you could read along. But I'm going to make it so you can just watch it like a fun show. And you don't have to test yourself. You don't have to read along. But either way, you're going to learn about entomology. And then I'll probably, if it's successful, I'll do other courses. You could suggest courses. Like paleontology, the study of dinosaurs and prehistoric extinct animals. That's a good one. Virology, study of viruses. That'd be really cool. All right. So what I want to show, we know that in the introduction, he's just going to give a background of materials and methods and techniques of how he identified matter. So I think it's going to be pretty intense and pretty dry, maybe. So we're not going to do that right away. What I want to do is get to the juicy stuff. So I want to talk about the UFO wreckage. So we're going to skip the introduction for now. Let me come back to it. Okay, and then we're going to go to... Let's look at some pictures real fast. Okay. So this is the UFO wreckage itself. So yeah, I mean, if you're wondering... that's what a part of a UFO looks like, apparently. I mean, literally, an unknown flying object. Looks like this. So what does it look like? I mean, it looks kind of like dirt, right? Like almost like a fossil. I mean, yeah, look, it looks like it could be a skull of an animal. My dad loves geology, but I have a very rudimentary, very basic understanding. But I think this is the first time I've looked at it up close. But it's weird. I mean, it's not what you would think UFO wreckage would look like. But I think we're going to read it that it's not exactly. It is part of UFO, but I don't think it's part of the outside of the UFO. It's not part of the structure of the UFO. This is more like vomit from a UFO, because I think what happened is this UFO was spewing out of a hole, like an orifice, spewing this material, which I've heard in other cases. Sometimes UFOs, they look like a flying saucer, but they'll just like dump their toilets or something. Whatever's happening, this molten metal comes out of them. And I think Jacques Vallée and other scientists have said that this is probably some kind of byproduct of the engine or some kind of waste material. And I think that's what we're going to be looking at right here. But those are the pictures. And okay. So yeah, let's read right here. Okay. So we're going to read this section right here. And I believe this is just basically a UFO encounter straight out of a research paper, which is very unusual. But here's what happened. Okay. So in this section 3.1, it's called Overview of the Incident at Council Bluffs, Iowa, the 17th of December in 1977. Let me drink some water, and let's read the spooky story. That took place in Collins, Council Bluff, Iowa, on the evening of Saturday, December 17, 1977, provides an interesting opportunity to compare testing methodologies suitable for the analysis of material recovered from aerial objects. The Council Bluff case has been previously reported in detail by Jacques Vallée, and it says 29. What that means is that 29 is the reference number for what he's talking about. So if you go to the end of this paper, you'll see the works cited section. And if you look at all the items, if you go to number 29, it's talking about what his previously reported case. So you can read more about it, basically. That's what that number means. And in a book by Professor Peter Sturrock of Stanford University's Plasma Research Institute, number 30. So you can read his paper, which is number 30. So that's interesting. So this scientist, this professor named Peter Sturrock, who works at Stanford, he worked at the, or he maybe still does, at the Plasma Research Institute. And he studied this case as well. That's interesting, plasma, because I've talked about how plasma, the fifth state of matter, I believe, is a likely cause for paranormal things, and could be a cause for UFOs. Let's look that up real fast. Plasma state of matter. Okay, so one of the authors studies plasma, and plasma is, I'm sorry, I thought I was wrong. It's not the fifth state of matter, it's the fourth state of matter. Plasma is called the fourth state of matter after solid, liquid, and gas. So yeah, we talked about that earlier. So plasma is the fourth. After your solids, your liquids, your gas, you got plasma, which is what UFOs could be made of. I mean, doesn't that kind of make sense, right? Like, what if ghosts are made of plasma? Because what are humans made of? We're made of solids, liquids, and gases. As far as I know, there's no plasma in a human. But what if the paranormal stuff, which is so different than us, is made of plasma, which is another state of matter? It is a state of matter in which an ionized substance becomes highly electrically conductive to the point that long-range electrical and magnetic fields dominate its behavior. Oh, okay. So when you have plasma, it becomes very electrically conductive, so it could transmit electricity really well. So you have long-range electrical and magnetic fields. Oh, interesting. So long range, it could have affect the electricity and the magnets or the magnetic fields around it for a long distance. That's crazy. Anyway, so those are the people that have studied this. It's just giving us some clues about this case. Why would a plasma researcher study a UFO case? Well, maybe because plasma is involved. Okay, so on that day at 1945 GST or 1:45 GMT, a red luminous mass was observed by 2 Council Bluff residents as it fell to Earth near the northern city limits, slow enough to enable its approximate trajectory to be noted. So it was red, and it was luminous. It was giving off light. That's pretty cool. Bright flash was seen, followed by flames that were about 8 to 10 feet high. Okay, that's pretty rad. When they reached the scene, the witnesses found an area covered by molten metal that glowed red-orange, igniting the grass. That's crazy, dude. Can you imagine? Can you imagine you're out with your buds, drinking a bud, a Miller, and then you see a red luminous mass, okay? And then you see a bright flash. You see some flames about 8 to 10 feet high. And you're like, let's go check it out. So when you get there, you see that the area is covered with a molten metal, like liquid metal, and it's glowing red and orange. It's caught the grass on fire. That's pretty crazy. That does sound like some weird space stuff. I would be scared. I wouldn't touch it, honestly. Police and a fireman arrived within 15 minutes and saw the mass, with estimates ranging from 35 to 55 pounds. And in quotations, it was running, boiling down the edges of the levee. I believe a levee is a part of a dam. I just want to get the image of what a levee is. I think there's a country song that talks about levees. See what a levee is, because I want to show a picture of it. A ridge or sediment alongside a river by overflowing water. Oh, okay. Let's get a picture of it, because I want you to imagine this red molten metal overflowing over this area. Well, these are some levees. Let's get a good levee going here. Let's use this one. Okay. So here you are. Imagine this is what a levee looks like. And imagine, should I trust that levee? Not if it's got molten lava on it. Okay, so imagine this part right here is a levee. And there's just a bunch of molten red hot metal from a UFO just going over, I guess, into the water. Anyway, so it was running and boiling down the edges of the levee, an area about 4 by 6 feet. Okay, 4 by 6 feet. That's pretty big. The central portion remained warm to the touch. Who's touching this thing? The certain portion remained warm to the touch. That's crazy. These guys are touching UFO material for approximately 2 hours. It was hot. Not that hot, I guess. It was just warm, but it wasn't warm for 2 hours. No cratering was noticed. So it was just like, didn't make a hole or an indentation in the ground. It was just above it, but it was boiling and like falling off the edge of a water area. Okay, the site is a public area called Big Lake Park in the suburb of Omaha, Nebraska, located on the southeastern shore of the Missouri River in Iowa. Okay. This section of the park, known as Gilbert's Pond, lies across the river from Epley Airport. The weather at the time was overcast with a 2,500 feet ceiling, visibility of 10 miles, temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty clear. Visibility of 10 miles. You could see a large distance without clouds. 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not that bad. Wind was from the west-northwest at 16 miles an hour with gusts up to 25 miles an hour. That doesn't sound that bad. Given the physical evidence, and it talks about the picture we saw. So based on this physical evidence or the picture we saw, the availability of cooperating witnesses, so the people that saw all this stuff happen, how available were they to talk to, and the proximity of the major airport, and because it was very close to an airport, the investigation was immediately oriented to the potential for an industrial accident, an aeronautical malfunction, or a meteorite. Okay, so they're saying that when this happened, the people first thought it was either an industrial accident, something that went wrong with a plane, an airplane, or a satellite, or some kind of man-made atmospheric machine, or a meteorite, something from space. After ascertaining that the material was not radioactive, so 2 people were able to test it for radioactivity, that's good. 2 chemical analyses were rapidly conducted, one at the Iowa State University laboratory and the other at Griffin Pipe Products Company. Okay, so a private company that works on pipes and a university laboratory worked on it. Both agreed with the determination that the material was a metallic alloy, so it was made of different types of metals. Metals are like iron, tungsten, chiefly iron, there you go, mostly iron with small amounts of nickel and chromium. Okay, so that's what it was made of originally. They said, okay, it's made of these 3 types of atoms: iron atoms, nickel, and chromium atoms. Those are found on the periodic table of elements and are types of metals. The report indicated that the microstructure, so this is, the structure is the shape of something, but at a microscopic level. So the microstructure, the way it looked at a microscopic level, suggested that the studied sample was carbon steel that was cast, subsequently reheated to about 1,000 degrees and cooled at an intermediate rate, so that it resembled wrought iron. Okay, that's a lot of information. Wrought iron is an alloy containing low carbon content. Carbon is another type of element in the 0.08%, so less than 1%, or less level. Okay, so wrought iron is a type of alloy. I guess humans can make it all the time, but it's got very low carbon. It's only got about less than 1%. It's very low carbon. No pictures of the microstructure were provided in the historical report. Okay, so nobody took a picture of what it looks like under a microscope. The problem with that determination was that nothing accounted for the way a large amount of that very heavy and extremely hot material could have been deposited in that area in a molten state. So he's saying, okay, we did this original investigation and we found out what it is. It's 3 different types of metal. We found out how it was cooked or how it was made. But, okay, that doesn't tell us why it fell from the sky if it's so heavy, and why was it in a molten state? Why was it hot? Where did it come from? And why did it happen following the clear observation of a luminous object in the sky? The purported source of the material, which remained unidentified. So that's interesting. They're saying that this molten stuff came from the luminous object, or the UFO, the red thing they saw in the sky. But yeah, that's why I think the witnesses believe it came out of that thing. I'm not sure if that UFO crashed, but let's keep reading. Therefore, the investigation went into a second, more specific phase of analysis, along with several hypotheses. Hypotheses are these questions we're trying to answer, possible explanations. First, there was an abundance of valuable eyewitness testimony that had to be reconsidered, which will be reviewed below. Okay, so before they did the second analysis, they wanted to review the valuable eyewitness testimony. Very interesting. All right. All right, thank you very much, Melinda, coming in for the win with the... Melinda says... okay. So she says that Greenwich Mean Time, located in Greenwich, England, outside of London. Interesting. In Greenwich, the prime meridian, which divides the eastern and western hemisphere of the Earth. I've been there before, on one foot in the east and one in the west. Okay. So Greenwich is a place. And in Greenwich, well, I believe Greenwich is in England, outside of London. So if you go outside of London, which is in England, which is in Europe, geography, if you go there, there's a place called the prime meridian. And so this line, it's an imaginary line that divides the eastern and western hemisphere. So, you know, the Earth is a sphere, like an orange. I'm sorry. The Earth is flat, like this. And you could put a line between the flat shape of the Earth. I'm just kidding. So the Earth is a sphere, and it's kind of tilted. It's not exactly, up and down. But anyway, you could put an imaginary line going up and down, with one half being the west and one being the east. So a globe, imaginary line down the middle, separating east and west. That line is called the prime meridian, and that line crosses in Greenwich. And so Melinda was standing where that line is. There's probably a marker. And so she had one foot on the left side of the line and one foot on the right side. So she was at the same time on both halves of the Earth, which is very cool. Hey, Mr. Catfish, so good to see you. I hope you're doing good. So Melinda says it must have been super hot to keep such a decent sized body of water warm for 2 hours. Interesting. Was the water warm or was it just warm? Let me see if I missed something. Yeah, it says it was extremely hot and that I think it was warm to the touch on the middle. Let's see. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's look at some photographs real fast. Let me show you these pictures. All right. Well, okay, so here's the map I was talking about. So yeah, there's the X where it landed. There's a primary witness, which is number 2. There's the lake. There's the airfield to the left, Epley Airfield. There's the Missouri River. There's witness number 3 to the left. There's witness number 1 on the right. And then this material is right here. That's the picture of where, that's a Polaroid I can't tell anything out of it, unfortunately. But here's a little close-up. It says the green and gray area is where the material is. I mean, I kind of see, like, right here, some stuff. So this is the levee, I guess. All right. Let me just see if there's anything interesting else, any other cool pictures. There's a bunch of graphs that analyze the material. Yeah, I think that does it. Did you see this picture? I think this was earlier, so I think you did see the crash material. I'll just show it one more time. One more time, if you're curious, this is what the material looks like. And to me, it looks like a fossil, kind of. See how big it's next to a ruler? So it's like 1 inch long. And there's another piece. And yeah, to me, it looks like it's made of dirt, but apparently it's made of 3 metals, an alloy. Very cool. Cool. Whoop. Okay, well, I won't go anymore. We'll continue it, I guess, on Tuesday. Yeah, I want to hang out with my friends. So thank you so much for watching, and leave any comments or questions. And take care. Thank you for being here.